This is FNAF Ransomware, one of FNAF's most popular and scary trends ever made. But what even is it? Is it even real? And how did we get here? Well, if you're brand new to the FNAF franchise, or if you know everything about it, FNAF Ransomware is a completely different and unique rabbit hole that not many people know what it's actually about. So that's why I'm going to explain and go over everything there is to know about this mysterious trend, like why it blew up, why it is and isn't scary, and most importantly, why it is completely different compared to most other FNAF trends from the past, along with so much more. And in order to do this, we'll be taking a look at 15 different pieces of FNAF Ransomware related media, such as FNAF Ransomware videos, and so much more. So if you need something to put on in the background while you work, or if you want to take a look at some of FNAF's scariest fan-made content ever made, then this is the perfect video for you. But with all that out of the way, now I have to ask the question, what is FNAF Ransomware? FNAF Ransomware is a subgenre of digital horror, which contains supposed gameplay footage of fake, pirated, and or hacked versions of FNAF games. The idea of FNAF Ransomware most likely originated from the FNAF 2 Stingray virus, which has gained popularity over the past year for being a supposedly real virus that would disguise as an old FNAF 2 mobile port that would hack your phone after being played. However, the video that inspired the trend that we know it as today is titled Five Nights at Freddy's, also known as FNAF 1 Ransomware, which after posting got extremely popular for the disturbing imagery seen and the overall surrealism the video portrayed. The video starts out like a normal early 2010s YouTube/forum post video, with the uploader using the notepad to communicate to the audience about what the video is going to be about. In the background, we can see the computer is running on Windows 7, and we can also hear and see that the uploader is running a YouTube video of the Nine Cats song for background music. All of these things combine to develop a sense of nostalgia, along with world building and a way to immerse the viewer into the video, and most importantly, into the horror. But I'll get back to that in a moment. As the video continues, the uploader says they have found a free version of FNAF 1, and that they will be playing it for the video. So after that introduction, they click on the free version, and this is what they see. From the moment the uploader started the game, weird imagery, sounds, and other things can immediately be seen in the game. From the weird yellow-eyed Freddy, main menu screen, gameplay, and etc., there is something wrong with this game. Your gut is telling you this isn't right. This isn't what FNAF 1 looks like. Even if you've never played the game before, you know that the uploader shouldn't be playing this game. But there is nothing you can do except watch in horror as the video continues. And as the video does continue, you can see that the office is blurry and pixelated, and that the textures seem to have been corrupted and or replaced in a haphazardous way to make them lose quality. But then when the camera opens, the same thing can be said, as the camera buttons do not work, the textures are all messed up, and Freddy looks completely different. But when the cameras are closed, we can notice that the office is getting darker and darker, until out of nowhere, we get jump scared by the same yellow-eyed Freddy from the opening screen. After this jump scare though, the game flashes 4 messages on screen, with the first one saying this: "Hey now, the game has paid version. Now we show you. Free download link Bitcoin." And then after that, this message appears. 966. The man who saves, he most in common, shows, he most gratitude in heart, and he show the duty untruth in heart. 7x porg. And then this message appears. Take the time you have now. Love forever. And then finally, this one appears. Leviticus 6:38. do what you must. Only you can make it life now. Then after those messages appear, the uploader's computer can be seen on the home screen before shutting down. One thing to mention about these messages, specifically the Bible quotes, is that these are not real, at least in the terms of what is actually said in the Bible, as these are inaccurate and are not what is actually said. These themes of religion are something we'll go over in the next part of this video, but I wanted to bring this up as this isn't a one-off thing. Anyways, shortly afterwards, we can see the computer booting up again, but when doing so, it looks distorted and sounds broken. But when the computer finally boots, this is what is seen. This is the ransomware screen, where we can see another distorted version of Freddy along with various text boxes saying things along the lines of, "You have violated law. Stealing from our friends are not allowed. And to get back your files, please send 1 Bitcoin to the wallet below." All while a bright red 1 hour remain line of text flashes on the bottom of the screen. So after this screen stays up for a little bit, the video comes to an end. And then with that, that's the first official FNAF ransomware video. This is the overall format these ransomware videos follow, or at least the overall concept of them. Each and almost every ransomware video follows the uploader's gameplay / screen footage of them playing an off-brand version of a FNAF port they find online, and as the video continues, more unsettling things begin to occur in said games the uploader is playing. Some videos don't follow this exact format, as you'll see later, with some just being creepy videos following the style of FNAF ransomware, with that including surreal imagery and a overall off-putting vibe along with other things. But that combined with some other things seen in these videos also help flesh out the type of horror some of these videos try to tap into, like Five Nights at Freddy's CDs, as in this video we are transported back into the early 2010s, seen by the Windows 7 desktop, and all the other things I mentioned earlier, which leads me back to what I stopped myself from getting deeper into when starting to talk about this video, with that being the horror of it. Now as this video goes on, and as we review and deep dive into countless other FNAF ransomware videos, there is one thing each of these pieces of media do differently, and that's how they present themselves, and most importantly, how they present the horror shown throughout. You'll see what I mean as this video continues, but looking at this specific piece of content, there is a lot we can analyze and take from it that helps build the atmosphere that contributes to what made this video and trend as a whole popular, with one of those main things being a subgenre dubbed nostalgic horror. There are certainly other names for this subgenre, and there is definitely other subgenres that can be attributed to this one, but the overall idea behind nostalgic horror is the horror presented blends fear with elements of childhood memories, retro aesthetics, and other familiar media / things of the past. The reason it exists and is effective is because of its ability to transform and twist these innocent and comforting feelings given to us from these nostalgic things into something uncanny and eerie. Taking what we know as familiar and then distorting it into the unfamiliar is what makes it so effective, such as the idea behind FNAF as a whole, turning a fun childhood memory of, say, going to Chuck E. Cheese and then flipping it on its head to turn those comforting memories of it into the complete opposite. And that is why the franchise blew up. And the same can be said with FNAF ransomware. The ability to use your own thoughts and potentially fears you once had as a child of things that now seem irrational makes it a compelling and almost universal type of horror that almost everyone can relate to. And that brings me back to Five Nights at Freddy's CD. As kids, whether we had our own PCs or borrowed our parents, we knew that if we broke it, we would be in huge trouble, and that there would be consequences if anything were to happen to it. We all had our parents tell us not to download suspicious games or click on random links or anything that could lead to the computer getting a virus or broken. So as we watch this video, we are almost subconsciously put into the shoes of the uploader, as I'm sure most of us watched YouTube when it looked like this, and also tried to create YouTube videos when we were kids. So the fact this video has already subconsciously given us this feeling that we have all felt as kids immediately delves into the nooks and crannies of, well, our subconscious. using our own memories to remind us of what we feared most as a child. So when the video eventually transitions to the gameplay portion, we have already been transported back to our younger selves' point of view, with most of us not even realizing. And that's how it gets you. So as the video continues, the fear of computer viruses, scary games, loud noises, and the instinct to run to your mom crying for help and fears you did something you weren't supposed to all come running back full speed. So when you see the logging off screen, along with the starting Windows screen eventually lead to the ransomware screen, all of those feelings have taken full effect, making this video arguably one of, if not the best uses of nostalgic horror I've ever seen, at least for FNAF. It blends everything seamlessly into one small compacted video that gives you the same fear as a typical quote-unquote digital horror subgenre video would, but also adding that element of nostalgia to dive deeper into the horror shown. And this same vibe can be seen in another video, with that being Five Nights at Freddy's weird mobile port. If you think Five Nights at Freddy's CD was scary, then FNAF Weird Mobile Port will traumatize you, as this video and its subsequent fan game is arguably the most terrifying rendition of fan-made FNAF-related media possibly created, with many of the commenters on this video agreeing. The video starts with text appearing on screen that says, "Hi guys, Freddy Fazbear fan here," with the text shortly disappearing to show new text, which says, "Today I'm playing a FNAF mobile port. Enjoy the video," which afterwards we are greeted by the main menu. Immediately we see a distorted version of Freddy along with a start and leave button, Russian text, and the main menu theme, which consists of a low deep pulsating bass. The Russian, when translated, says something along the lines of "endless hell with Freddy," according to some commenters. As the video continues, the player clicks the start button, which leads to this introduction for the game.
Misfortune snuck up upon you, and you've been dragged down to hell. As you make your way through the dark, you find what you initially think to be a safe haven. You stand in the dim light, unknowing what to do next. You wonder if you are alone. You soon find out that you are not. There are 4 hungry monsters down here. They haven't been fed for a long time and will do whatever it takes to eat. Hold off on their attacks, stay alert, and survive until 6 a.m.
Tiny Renee.
Get yours in a blink, and for less than you'd think.
At cartridgepeople.com.
This is hell, and this, the office, is where the protagonist has stumbled upon on their journey through the darkness. As the player looks around the office, we can see that they are shrouded by darkness, with the hallways being nothing but pure black, except for when they flash a light, where we can see the hallways are just a small corridor with a pitch black doorway at the end of it. But when the player closes the door, we realize the only thing keeping them safe is a thin see-through chain link door, which doesn't look to have much durability to withstand whenever monsters are down here with the player. Even when looking straight forward in the office, we are still engulfed by the darkness seen surrounding the player, with the only bit of light and color seen in the office on the poster and desk in front of them. As the player finally opens the camera, we are greeted to the main stage area, where we can see completely distorted and dreamlike versions of the 3 main animatronics, with Freddy being the only one to seemingly be intact, as Bonnie and Chica are missing a majority of their body, along with a majority of their facial features. As the player looks through more cameras, we are also greeted to Pirate's Cove, where we can see yet another distorted version of the animatronics, with that being a completely hellish looking Foxy, complete with piercing missing glowing white eyes and what seems to be an enlarged jaw. The sign in front of Pirates Cove also seems to say something as well, with it most likely being a website name or link to donate money to for the ransomware. As the player continues to switch through cameras, we are again brought back to the main menu show stage, where all hell breaks loose. The camera glitches for a split second to then return to an empty show stage, where shortly after, text flashes on screen saying, "On their way," as we now see the animatronics in the dining room. As the camera closes, we hear heavy fast footsteps quickly approaching the player, and when flashing the light before closing the left door, they are face to face with the demonic version of Bonnie. In a panic, the player opens the camera again to be greeted with Chica standing right next to their office, staring right at them. So after staring right back, the camera then again glitches to show Chica has moved. So in fear of her being in the office, the player closes the camera and checks the door, to then see her standing right there while growling. So after closing the door and getting her to leave, the player again checks the camera to see how Foxy is doing, where text appears on screen saying, "Foxy hasn't moved at all. AI is definitely bugging." Now this claim can just be attributed to the overall lack of quality seen in this port, but if you look closely at Foxy compared to the other animatronics, he looks to be jittery, as you can see him almost like shaking from behind the curtain. It's not really anything substantial, but it's definitely interesting to say the least, because no other animatronics seem to do this. But anyways, after looking at Foxy, we get to see another sweep of the cameras, where we see that Freddy seems to be closing in on the player, but that's until they take another quick look at Pirates Cove. After surviving Foxy's attacks, along with another one of Bonnie's, things start to get even more bizarre, as shortly afterwards, the player's screen is completely covered by a pop-up that says this: "Donate to www. Some Russian text to win 10% increase in Bitcoin," along with text on Chica that says, "God loves you." The Russian text, when translated, supposedly says baboon dollar, according to some commenters, which when googling what that was, led me to multiple websites selling a meme coin called Base Baboon. Now, I don't know if that's what this is supposed to be referencing, or if this is just a coincidence, but if it isn't, the amount of detail this ransomware video has to seem even more sketchy when diving deep into it makes it feel that much more real. But then right before this screen ends, we can just barely notice that it flashes blue for one frame, where if we look close, we can see a new piece of text hidden on the bottom left of the screen that seems to say, "God's love can't save you," which then upon disappearing leads back to normal gameplay. The uploader then puts more text on screen saying, "I don't know what that was, it happens a few times," before again leading back to more gameplay footage where nothing of note really happens. 3 AM is kinda boring because all of the animatronics disappeared or something. Like, seriously, where the fuck are they? Is what the text on screen says, as for some reason the animatronics are gone and can't be seen anywhere on the cameras. But as the player is actively searching for them, another pop-up appears that says pirate movies at www.baboondollar.com, which is even more confusing than the last pop-up. But then after this, we get another message from the uploader saying 3 AM to 4 AM were very boring. 5 AM, however, and this is where all hell breaks loose. Final thoughts. I spent $4 for this crap. Very poor mobile port of FNAF 1. Nothing like OG. 4 out of 10. And with that, that is Five Nights at Freddy's weird mobile port. Arguably one of the scariest and most eerie pieces of FNAF media ever made, and I'm sure you can see why. From the introduction sequence where we can see a demonic version of what seems to be the puppet rise from the depths, to the overall aggression and speed these hungry monsters have to try and enter your office, plus everything else seen in this video, there is a lot to go over, and to make Perish Stupid's dream come true, this is the type of video to end up on a video called something like The Strange World of FNAF Fan Creepypastas 4 years from now. And, well, luckily for them, they only had to wait 4 months for that video to release, as this is it. Now, you know how I mentioned nostalgic horror earlier? Well, now we need to introduce yet another subgenre of horror, with that being religious horror. It's very self-explanatory to understand what it could represent, but for people who may not have an interest in religion, or the genre as a whole, religious horror is a subgenre that primarily focuses on supernatural beings, such as demons, along with other aspects of religion, such as God, religious symbolism, hell, and many other things to formulate its story and themes around. This can too be said for FNAF Weird Mobile Port, as what makes this video primarily terrifying is the fact that the player is trapped in hell, and most likely has no escape. Upon starting the game and loading into the main menu, the title text literally says Endless Hell with Freddy, immediately insinuating that the player will never be able to escape. Then, when the start button is pressed, the beginning prologue further enforces that belief by doubling down on it. We don't know how the player managed to get dragged down into hell. We don't know how the player was able to make their way through the dark. We simply just don't know. But that's until we read the text. You wonder if you are alone, where we begin to wonder that exact question, until more text appears that says, you soon find out you are not. That one line of text is all it takes to raise the stakes and to make us, the viewers, be filled with dread. Then, as the rest of the text appears, we also begin to see intelligible versions of the supposed quote-unquote monsters that are down here in hell with us. We can only faintly make out which animatronic is which, but this combined with the fact they are hungry and will do whatever it takes to eat is all it takes for us to know that this is not your ordinary FNAF game. Then, once the gameplay begins, it follows the typical FNAF ransomware formula, with spooky imagery, random pop-up ads, and even the uploader adding in text and editing to inform the viewer of some things. But that's until we get to 5 AM, which is arguably the most terrifying part of this video, as it throws out everything we've come to know about this game straight out the window. Once the clock hits 5 AM, we are deafened by the sound of the FNAF 1 circus ambience, and so is the player, panicking to find out what is going on, until they see all the animatronics in the dining room camera. But then, all of a sudden, the music goes quiet, and we are greeted to what is supposedly the puppet, which strikes a shocking resemblance to the creature seen in the prologue, as it could be the same one. But then it zips out of view of the camera, made even more startling by the aggressive sound of the circus music blaring in our ears again. So as the player switches cameras to find the puppet creature, we can see it fly down the hallway at such a speed that it seemingly is only on camera for a split second. The player then closes the camera to close the doors, and that's when we see it staring right at us through the chain link fence. It's on both sides of the door, and on all cameras at the same time. This thing is clearly not of this world, and can only be supernatural, as if it's a demon of hell itself doing anything it can to get in. The prologue seemed to forget to mention that there was a 5th monster, and that this one looks to be the hungriest, which could have been done on purpose to throw off the player, as the narrator for the prologue seems to be the puppet creature itself. But as the player continues to survive the onslaught of attacks from the puppet, the power then goes out, where for a split second we see it in our office. Then 2 white eyes appear from the darkness looking like it's ready to feed. But then the clock hits 6 AM and the nightmare is over. Until the ransomware screen appears and the player gets all their data stolen. But even though this is all this video has to offer, there is still one more thing to take a look at, and that is the description.
Keep beating me. Maybe one more punch is all I need to bleed more. Is that what you want? For me to bleed? I've been drained of blood since FNAF VHS, you fool. I am a trope. I feed off your want for more. I am a walking corpse, starved for attention. Give me a beating. I'll bleed for you.
This description seems to have no correlation to the video itself, but after thinking about this for a bit, I think I can put together what this is supposed to mean. And surprisingly, I feel like my explanation could be right. I believe this description describes the FNAF fandom and or landscape as a whole, especially the digital horror aspect of it. So if we replace some words and translate this description to make it make a little bit more sense of what I'm trying to describe, then I believe it will make a lot more sense for the rest of you.
Keep making me. Maybe one more video is all this niche needs to keep the trend alive. Is that what you want? For this trend to keep going? It's been drained of content / originality since FNAF VHS, you fool. This niche is a trope, and it will continue to keep going as long as people want more. This niche is a walking corpse, starves for attention. Keep making more. I'll continue for you.
And that's how I look at this description, as a cryptic reminder of what FNAF digital horror has become, with that being an empty hollow shell of itself, filled with continuous tropes and unoriginality. But that's why this description works well for this video, as it calls out the other pieces of content in this niche that continue those tropes and stereotypes seen in these types of videos. But FNAF Weird Mobile Port, well, it does stand out, and the reason it does is because it decided to break the norm. Even though it follows the FNAF ransomware trend, it decided to take a rather unconventional approach to its themes and overall story. Sure, this is a ransomware game, but the time and effort put into this game almost makes it stand out from the rest, as this one has a story, has unique gameplay, and most importantly, seems to have way more going on behind the scenes. And as you'll see as we continue on throughout this whole video, this description holds a lot of merit, as some of the other videos we'll be looking at are a one-to-one summarization of this description. Sure, this could totally just be me overanalyzing this video, along with this description, as in all reality, this video is just a shitpost. But it is done in such a way that there's so much that can be said about it, and for the most part, I think I have said everything I needed to about this video. But we will be coming back to this video later on, as shortly after this video was made, someone decided to make a fan game about it, which is just as terrifying as the video. But we will get to that another time, as we are only going over FNAF ransomware videos in this video. With the next one we're going to be taking a look at is the one that started it all, with that being FNAF 2 Stingray. Also, make sure to like the video if you want a part 2 of this one with the FNAF ransomware fan games, as I would love to do that. But anyways, let's get into FNAF 2 Stingray. There are no other videos or pieces of media in this video as influential as FNAF 2 Stingray, as this urban legend is what created FNAF ransomware into what it is today. Now, I've already made 2 videos on the backstory behind FNAF 2 Stingray, and rather not sound like a broken record, so if you want to educate yourself on everything there is to know about this virus, I'll link those 2 videos at the end of this one, because we'll only be taking a look into the original video footage that was posted online of it. But we can't just go over this video about FNAF 2 Stingray without going over what it is, as it won't make much sense without context. FNAF 2 Stingray was said to be a real fake FNAF 2 port that contained a type of virus in it that would act like a ransomware, where when downloading this fake pirated Trojan that presented itself as FNAF 2, it would infect your device after playing it and steal your data. But the footage we are about to go over is supposedly real footage of what would occur while playing the game. Now, there is way more to the story and virus as a whole, and this doesn't even scratch the surface of it. But as I said, we will just be looking at this quote-unquote supposedly real footage of FNAF 2 Stingray for this video. So if you're still interested in learning more about this virus, you can watch the other videos I made about it after this one is done. But before you do that, let's take a look at this footage. Now, the English version has seemingly been deleted from YouTube, as all I could find was a Spanish dub version of it, which is the exact same as the original, except that it has Spanish overlay text and is sped up at certain parts. But apart from those things, it is still the original video, so we'll be taking a look at this one. The video starts with footage of the FNAF 2 mobile port main menu, where we can see a black box over the animatronics covering the original English text, along with Spanish text underneath that when translated says,
Hello there. If you are here, you are looking for the quote-unquote lost FNAF 2 APK. That's what you are about to see. Enjoy.
Where then afterwards, the player clicks the start button. As the newspaper screen shows, another Spanish text box appears covering where the original English text was, where it says,
I'm going to skip to the end. It only happens at the end.
Where afterwards, we see the video fast forward all the way to the end of night 5, where this happens. after this, more text appears on screen that says,
It had a puppet jump scare at the end, but since my phone got corrupted, I can't get footage. This is all I could recover. Thanks for watching.
and then the video ends. Now, this video has been debunked as fake, but for a couple of months it was believed to be real footage of the Stingray virus, and I can see why. It's a simple premise. All the video consists of is screen-recorded footage of the uploader playing FNAF 2, with some occasional text put up on screen in editing, where nothing even happens for this game until the ending of it, where the screen randomly goes black and the player is jump-scared by a PNG of withered Chica with no eyes, followed by the screen getting corrupted and turning black while the puppet's music box plays in the background. This is what immediately sparked all the hype around this virus and basically started the ransomware trend, as no videos or related media ever showed anything like this, and even now, people still don't know where the jump scare image came from. I mean, this part of the video is so popular that people don't even bother to mention the end of the video, where as this video goes on, the audio continues to get more and more corrupted until the music finally stops, where we can hear a barely audible voice begin to speak. Now, I can't understand the first couple of words that are spoken, but I can make out what the voice says afterwards. And if you listen closely, you can hear it say, "I have hacked your phone, say goodbye," where this then repeats a couple of times until the final text box appears that mentions the puppet jump scare. People don't even bother to bring any of this up, as the Chica jump scare is already iconic enough, and since the rest of the video gets corrupted afterwards, there's not much use in talking about it. The overall simplicity of this video is what makes it scary, and that along with the urban legend behind it is what made it so popular. There are zero other ransomware videos like this that are associated with and or created an urban legend, myth, hoax, or whatever you want to call it online, and there are zero that ended up being this influential in doing so. The feeling that this could be real and could have been something you might have accidentally stumbled upon as a kid is terrifying, and this goes back to the nostalgic horror mentioned earlier. In every video I've made about FNAF 2 Stingray, I've had tons of comments mentioning that as a child, to get around the paywall FNAF has, they would just go to sketchy websites to download free pirated versions of the games. And the fear these commenters expressed when bringing up that they could have fallen victim to a virus like this on their own phones is what makes this specific video and urban legend so much more scary. The fact that real people could have so easily fallen victim to a virus like this, especially as children, along with the overall simplicity and mystery of FNAF 2 Stingray, is why it's personally one of my favorites. But there's also another super underrated early pioneer of FNAF ransomware that continued to follow in these same footsteps of FNAF 2 Stingray, also being another one of my favorite videos, with that being FNAF 2 Free Edition ransomware. Unlike Five Nights at Freddy's CDs, FNAF 1 Weird Mobile Port, and FNAF 2 Stingray, this is the first video we take a look at that isn't part of the big three. And what I mean by that is that as we continue to look at more videos and dissect everything we can about them, we'll start to look at more that have flown under the radar, along with some videos that aren't even publicly available for viewing, such as FNAF 2 Free Edition ransomware. This was one of my first experiences with the trend, as I vividly remember this video being the first instance of me running across it. I was sick and was in bed watching YouTube on my TV, when after refreshing the homepage, the title and thumbnail came up and it immediately caught my eye. I remember clicking on the video, confused but also intrigued, and as I continued to watch the video in my sick state, I remember being hit with a feeling of dread and unease. Then, once the video reached the halfway point, that's when I vividly remember getting goosebumps due to what happened in the video, and I'll never forget it. This was around February of 2024, right around the time this video was posted, and before everyone was desensitized to this sort of content. I don't know, it just struck a chord within me that I thought I had forgotten, but the childhood fear of everything I mentioned in the first segment, such as loud noises, scary games, and other irrational fears, just hit me like a truck for some reason. Maybe it was because I was sick, but maybe it's because it was something I once feared and could relate to, at least as a child. So let me show you what I mean. The video starts with the low-quality main menu of FNAF 2 Free Edition, where we can see a poorly cropped render of Withered Freddy's head, along with some typical misspelled and misplaced menu options. And after sitting on the screen for a little bit, the player eventually starts the game. But right before the game transitions into gameplay, we see the Freddy head lose its eyeballs and turn completely gray for a split second before we are shown the night 1 screen, where it instead says 1 night, 1 o'clock. After this screen, the player is finally brought to the gameplay section, where there is absolutely nothing except a compressed image of the office. Then that's when the camera screen opens to show a monochrome low-quality version of the main hall, which after viewing for a couple seconds, the player closes. Now, I'm not sure if the player is actually playing here, as there are no buttons to be seen anywhere on screen, so for as far as we know, the game could be controlling itself, which is a terrifying thought. So regardless if that's the case or not, the camera opens up again to the main hallway, except this time there is a low-quality PNG image of Withered Freddy, which is also missing his eyes and is gray, just like the main menu version was. So again, the camera closes and we are brought back to the office, except this time the FNAF 2 chase ambience has followed, and all of a sudden, the same Freddy seen on the cameras appears. The player then quickly puts on the mask to try and avoid his attack, but is unsuccessful and they get jump scared by Freddy. It had booted me out of the game. It's the text that the uploader added after the jump scare, as after that had happened, the player's game subsequently crashed. So again, the player boots up the game, and when clicking start this time, or whatever button starts the game, we see this. After clicking start again, the player is instead sent to the beginning of the night cutscene, where after looking around for some time, the golden Freddy standing in front of them transforms into the Freddy from the main menu and the one that attacked the player, and right as this happens, all audio cuts out and is instead replaced by an ear-piercing loud electrical humming. Then afterwards, the audio stops again and is replaced with the breathing noise that can be heard when wearing the mask in-game. All while the ransomware screen shows in the background, where it says,
You idiot, it us illegal to pirate Scott's game. There is no way to play his games free. Give me money or your computer goes night-night. Freddy's seat bared too. One day remains.
Right before the video ends. Now, looking back on this video, there are definitely way more scary iterations of FNAF ransomware out there, but for the time, and for being one of the first pieces of content regarding this trend, I have to say it's not that bad. This video definitely falls under the shitpost category more than the non-shitpost category, but so do a lot of other FNAF ransomware videos. It's just that this one falls under the category way more than others. But that's why this one is one of my favorites. It was one of the first, and for a small time, it scared me. But now we can look back at it and laugh and see how far the community has gone with their ideas and so forth related to this niche, as this video doesn't have much to dive deep into. It's just an ordinary ransomware video, and it follows the formula to a T. But just like FNAF 2 Stingray, its simplistic concept worked for the time, and did well. But looking back, it could have definitely had some improvements, just like the next video we'll be looking at, with that being FNAF 3 ransomware/malware. Now, upon first glance, this video doesn't seem like it has any notable needs for improvement, but just like the last video, I would say that once this video gets past the halfway mark, it too falls under the shitpost category for FNAF ransomware videos. But I will say, the first half of this video is actually really good in my opinion, as it feels way more grounded in reality for what a real ransomware or virus game would look like, at least when it comes to fake FNAF game viruses, and let me show you what I mean. The video starts with some text that says,
I found a free FNAF 3 version on sketchy website.
Which then transitions into the main menu for this ransomware version of FNAF 3. Now, I am sure you can immediately see what I mean when I mention that this video feels way more grounded in reality. Unlike all the other videos we have looked at so far, and have yet to look at, this video is the only one that has a normal main menu screen when booting up the game, at least at first glance. The menu has the normal version of Springtrap, the same text, and even the glitchy effects just like the real menu. But after staring at it for long enough, you'll realize that it doesn't say FNAF 3, but instead says FNAF 53. And the copyright at the bottom doesn't have Scott's name on it, as it has been blurred out. This is a more accurate representation of what a fake port of a game would try to replicate. It wouldn't be all spooky and different when booted up, or even at all. It would instead literally just be a copy and paste of the actual game, so that the player wouldn't know that they were playing a fake version. But then all that subtlety seemingly gets ruined once the game transitions into the newspaper screen, as we are greeted to a blurred out version of the newspaper, where we can see that the text is mostly smudged and that Freddy is missing his eyes. I just realized that for some reason these videos love to get rid of the character's eyes for some reason. I don't know if there's a deeper reason behind it, whether it be to make it more scary or for whatever. I don't know, maybe it's to make it more of a shitpost, but please let me know why you guys think they do these in these videos, because it's a recurring trend for some reason. Anyways, the newspaper then fades away to the night 1 screen, where it glitches out at the end and turns into a bunch of garbled text. Again, the screen fades out and goes to normal gameplay, but the night 1 text is still glitched out for some reason. But that's when the player opens the monitor, and we can see that it doesn't have an animation for when it was opened. It kinda just faded into existence. So after using the reset buttons for a minute, the player finally closes the monitor when this happens. After being jump-scared by a poorly cropped PNG of Springtrap, the screen then goes black, where after a few seconds of waiting, the player is brought back to the main menu, where it is now poorly cropped and compressed. The same goes with the newspaper screen, as after clicking the play button again, we can see that this screen is also cropped wrong. But then when we are brought to the night 1 screen, it isn't poorly cropped, but is instead normal until it again glitches out. But then once we transition in the gameplay, this is what we see. And with that, that is the end of the video. This video isn't the best, but it also isn't the worst. It is just missing a certain piece that I can't quite put my finger on, because personally, this video just isn't that interesting. Sure, the beginning of it was interesting, even though it was slow, and that's because it was subtle. It wasn't all in your face, and it wasn't something that immediately would scare you. Instead, it was something of a slow burn, until all that suspense was immediately ruined by the newspaper screen. It should have also been normal, except with maybe a few small changes to start to build that sense of dread up, because if it did do that, it would have made the gameplay segment way more interesting. If the video decided to keep that unsettling, subtle vibe to it, to where you know that something is wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it, it would have made this segment of the video actually suspenseful instead of boring, and it would have made the jump scare that happens afterwards way more scary. Then everything that happens afterwards was kind of just bleh. Now, I know horror is subjective, but the video just wasn't that scary. The imagery wasn't scary, the audio effects weren't scary, and even the most important part of a ransomware video wasn't scary, with that being the ransomware screen itself. Sure, it definitely looks low quality, like a ransomware screen should, and it usually does, but that's not the issue here. The issue is that it just wasn't scary. But I will say that at least the ransomware text is pretty funny.
Well, how bad? You think you can steal from us, FNAF? This version is the free trial. You did not pay the real one. Scott is really mad at you. Please pay $214 in Bitcoin currency. Your files have been taken, and they're gonna be deleted.
Yeah, This video isn't anything too special and definitely needs some improvements looking back on it. But again, like the last video we looked at, it was made around the beginning of the trend, so they did the best they could. And honestly, that's kind of all that matters at the end of the day. But since there weren't many videos back then to take inspiration from or get ideas from, I will say that this video did take some inspiration from another video posted around that same time frame, with that being a video simply titled FNAF 3 Ransomware, where this video used some of these same sound effects and ideas as this one, and you'll see what I mean. Just like FNAF 2 Free Edition, FNAF 3 Ransomware was also one of the first pieces of media related to this trend that I experienced. And just like FNAF 2 Free Edition, this video holds a special place in my heart, as the imagery seen in this video has never left my mind since the day I've seen it, and there's a good reason on why that is. Just from the main menu alone, which can be seen at the beginning of the video, it is nothing but an image of the newspaper intro screen along with a poorly cropped and blurred version of Bonnie, with text overlay that says 15's at Freddy 3, play and release. This main menu, and more specifically, this image of Bonnie has been engraved into my memory for some strange reason. It's not because the design is overtly scary or anything along the lines of that, but I personally think it's because my brain is trying to figure out what I'm staring at. Now yes, I know that is Bonnie, but the blurriness along with the fact he is missing his ears, is dirty, and looks to have phantom eyes is why I believe I cannot shake this image from my head, and I think that is due to the phenomenon known as the uncanny valley. Now I've brought this concept up before in previous videos I've made, but the reason I bring up the uncanny valley here is because this image of Bonnie, along with another character that'll be seen near the end of FNAF 3 Ransomware, that matches the description of what the uncanny valley is, and why I think I haven't been able to forget this image from my head. Also, if you don't know what the uncanny valley is, or just need a quick explanation, the uncanny valley is a phenomenon where something that almost looks human, but not quite human, triggers a sense of dread or discomfort, and the same could be said for this version of Bonnie. We know that it's Bonnie, but something's just off about him, and since our mind tries to fill in the gaps, especially since it's blurry and needs to, it creates that sense of dread and discomfort. But as the video continues, that same concept of our minds filling in the blanks will become way more apparent. So instead of me just trying to explain it to you, how about I show you? Do you see why I felt the need to explain the uncanny valley, along with all that stuff about your mind filling in the blanks and so forth? Maybe so, maybe not. But for me, after seeing everything I've just shown, I think the reason I like this video so much is because of the fact my mind tries to fill in the gaps. From the moment we hit the loading screen, to the moment we see the 4 p.m. first time screen, to of course the moment we see gameplay, we are most definitely confused as nothing makes sense. Like, why is there a silence on the top left of the screen? Why is it 4 p.m.? Why is the phone tweaking out? What does it mean first time? And most importantly, what is hiding in the darkness as the screen gets darker and more compressed? Well, we figured that out pretty quick, as shortly after the phone call starts, we see this almost human-like version of Springtrap appear from the shadows. And as he stares at us, the screen finally goes black, where again, he appears from out of nowhere until the player's computer shuts off, where the screen again goes black. Then shortly after, we see the computer begin to boot up, and when it does, we are greeted to this. There he is again, staring at us from the darkness. You can't quite make out his features, but if your guys' brains are anything like mine, Springtrap's face looks to be human, with two white piercing eyes staring right at us. If this video never featured this image of Springtrap or of Bonnie, I don't think it would have gotten as popular as it did, as these images are absolutely amazing at provoking that feeling of dread and discomfort the uncanny valley gives you. And many of the commenters on this video agree. Now this is probably just me looking too hard into it, like I've been doing for every single video so far, but I honestly think it's a fair opinion, as it almost gives off fever dream vibes in a way, but I suppose most of these videos do. This video looks like what it probably feels like to take 10 Benadryl and then play FNAF 3 right after, or get a lobotomy while playing FNAF 3. Honestly, I don't know. That's like the best way I can explain it, but yeah, I still don't think I'll ever forget that image of Springtrap or Bonnie, ever, so yeah. But you know what else I'll never forget? Five Nights at Freddy's 3 Ransomware Lost Media. Yeah, these videos all have a lot of the same names, but trust me, this is a different video compared to the last two we just looked at. And it will be the last FNAF 3 based ransomware video we look at, as all these names are starting to get confusing, and yeah, so yeah. Now, as I said, this is a video I'll never forget, as this video does various different things compared to the normal FNAF ransomware formula, and it even has some fourth wall breaks and hidden secrets that can only be seen if the viewer does certain things to activate them. This, along with the fact that this video is in a series of videos created by the uploader, gives it an ARG feel to it, and this can be seen in the intro. Unlike other videos in the niche, this one doesn't just immediately show footage of the gameplay, but instead has the uploader talk to the audience as if they were actively trying to uncover and solve the mystery behind these ransomware games. Now, I could just be interpreting the context of this intro wrong, but I'm sure you guys will correct me if I am, so please do. Because the video starts with the uploader thanking the viewers for the support on a previous ransomware video they have made, called Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Ransomware, Lost Media B-sided version. Where afterwards, they mention that these videos take a long time to make and that they really appreciate the support. So after this quick thanks to the audience, the uploader mentions that FNAF 3 and 4 have been found, except that FNAF 4 is an exe file, and that the uploader wants to decode it to see what is in the files, but then mentions that they have the FNAF 3 footage, and that's what we are about to see. Now before I get into the footage, this is what I mean about this video either being a series or an ARG or something along those lines. I can't tell if the uploader is playing a character, especially when they were thanking the audience, or if that is actual thanks for the hard work they did making the ransomware video itself, because right after that, they immediately mentioned FNAF 3 and 4 ransomwares, so I can't tell if this is all supposed to be a character or what, but that's my best guess, and honestly, regardless of what the actual answer is, it isn't too important to the actual content seen in the gameplay, so let's finally take a look at that. The gameplay footage starts with the normal warning screen before loading into the main menu, where we can see what looks to be the normal FNAF 3 menu, except that it's missing the continue button along with the copyright at the bottom of the screen. Also, the music that plays is the cut version of the main menu's theme, which makes the screen all the bit more disturbing, and the music even continues into the newspaper screen. Now, this is again where some ARG elements come into play, as if you have subtitles on while watching this video, there will occasionally be text that appears from said subtitles, like how there is on this screen, where it says,
Grand opening. Fredbear has reopened for the first time in years. Meet his friend, Fred Bonnie, and Fredbear.
Now this could also just be the uploader repeating what is supposed to be seen on the screen, since that would also make sense due to the low quality of the footage. But again, either answer could be true, and doesn't really matter for the context of this video. So after this screen fades into gameplay, well, I think it's best if I just show you as it then.
pi is approximately equal to 3.1415.
The Sanctified Throne, the Sanctified Soul.
Tones don't.
Now, I'm usually not one to swear in my videos, but all I can say after seeing that is, well, what the fuck? This video might not be as well put together as, say, I don't know, like FNAF Weird Mobile Port, but it sure as hell is just as terrifying. This video is similar to the last we just looked at, as it is too very subtle at the beginning. Nothing looks particularly off, and if you've never had any experience playing FNAF 3 prior, you would probably think it's normal. Sure, the cameras show locations from other games, the game lags heavily, there's no phone guy, and the night goes by extremely quick. But I mean, apart from that, there isn't really anything else too off about it, until after the 6 a.m. screen, where we see what looks to be a red version of Springtrap appear from the darkness. When I first saw this, I thought it was just going to be a repeat of the last video we looked at, where we just see a creepy, distorted version of Springtrap, and then blah blah blah, whatever. But that's when the text began to appear, or if we have subtitles on, we can read what they say.
Be quiet now. I can see you. Fun never lasts forever. Not without paying. Watch.
Where after this, he begins to violently twitch out on screen, all while the background noise gets progressively more aggressive.
Look at him closely. Look at the damage.
Are the final pieces of text before the twitching becomes frantic, before the moaning and screams become ear-piercing, before the gameplay inevitably glitches, putting all the chaos to rest as the PC shuts down. But not before we are face to face with the same red Springtrap yet again. So, after the PC shuts down, and as the video continues, the PC boots back up, where we can finally see the ransomware screen, where we can see a small portion of Springtrap's face near the bottom left of the giant red spot seen on screen. And with that, that is the video. There's not much to say about it except for the fact that it is extremely disturbing, and is mainly in part due to the fact that your mind has to fill in the gaps, just like it did for the last video. Now, I'm not going to go crazy in depth on why it's scary and why this video works, because honestly, I'm sure all you guys have different reasons, but I think the main reason this video is scary, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, is because it's basically, well, the same reason as the last video. So your mind fills in the gaps and yada yada yada. So since we just looked at 3 different iterations of ransomware for FNAF 3, and since they were all kind of scary for the same reasons, let's finally get a breath of fresh air and look at a FNAF 4 ransomware video, simply called FNAF 4 Hatred Edition, Ransomware Game Gameplay. This is the only ransomware video I have ever seen that I wish never classified itself as a piece of FNAF ransomware, because it could have worked so much better if it decided to pose as, say, I don't know, like a normal FNAF 4 port or game, or even creepypasta. This video starts off with text that says,
Hey guys, I found this free version of FNAF 4 on Happy Mount that was pretty weird, and I want to show you guys the gameplay I have of it. It's kind of disturbing, so warning. Lol.
Where we then see the home screen of the uploader's phone with the game on it. This app icon shows the FNAF 4 logo, but the Freddy in it is green and is missing his teeth and eyes. But apart from that, the rest of the icon is normal. So when the uploader opens the game, this is the first thing we see.
Warning, don't you have better things to do?
Followed by the main menu. This main menu looks the exact same as the normal FNAF 4 menu, except that it has a lot of artifacting and says hatred on the bottom left. This is what I mean by what I said earlier. This video feels more like a creepypasta or something similar to FNAF Real Mobile Port rather than ransomware. And sure, this could be said for probably every other video we looked at so far, but the way this one is presented and the way the introduction goes really sets up that creepypasta-like feel. Just from how this game is introduced, to how it looks and to how the gameplay is, it feels more like a hacked version of FNAF 4 than ransomware. This feeling of the game being more akin to, say, a ROM hack rather than a ransomware also helps make it feel more like a creepypasta as well, since a majority of gaming creepypastas feature ROM hacks to tell their stories. ROM hacks are, in simple terms, a modified version of a video game created by altering the game's read-only memory data, which would essentially create a new game from the base code. And as I continue to show you this video, it becomes more apparent that this definitely should have been the angle the creator of this video should have took, as it feels like it would have fit way better. So after the player clicks the start button, this is what the player sees. Gameplay is completely normal compared to FNAF 4's gameplay, with the player just playing the game as you normally would. But if you listen closely, you can hear the grandfather clock in the background on loop, along with the faint sound of someone saying, "I hate you." This repeating phrase plays for the whole night, and it is extremely unnerving. Like, I'm talking about this right now, I'm reading my script right now, and it's giving me goosebumps just from remembering it. Like, I don't know, it's just creepy. And it doesn't help, too, that even at, like, some points of the audio, you can hear an almost guttural moaning sound coming from the voice. Each time I had to watch this video to write this script, and even reading it out right now, it just gives me goosebumps more times than I can count. The voice just doesn't sound natural at all. It barely even sounds human, and especially with those weird moaning noises it makes, it's just, I don't know, it just activates something in me. But anyways, after around 2 minutes and 40 seconds into the video, the creepy voice is somewhat blocked out when the screen turns a dark red, and all the noises become grainy. Despite the screen becoming all messed up, the player still manages to play the game, and as they do so, a message appears on screen saying,
"Love all to none."
which makes absolutely no sense. But shortly after this message appears on screen, the FNAF 3 bad ending music starts playing, and shortly after, this happens. And just like that, the video went from extremely disturbing to cliche and, well, not scary. I'm not even going to go over the ransomware screen for this video because it literally is just the same as all the others. And honestly, I personally rather not, because the ransomware part of this video ruins it, and I'd rather just kind of forget about it. The video had such a great setup and genuinely was creepy, as it was subtle and wasn't over the top. I mean, the gameplay was literally completely normal except for the creepy whispering and the screen getting distorted near the end. It literally felt like a creepypasta or weird FNAF 4 mobile port, and honestly, that feeling is why I believe it worked. Going back to FNAF 1 weird mobile port and why that video works so well is because it never claimed to be a ransomware, but instead just a weird mobile port. That video never said anything about pirating Scott's games like how this one did, and when the ransomware screen did come up, it was more so like a big FU to the player for surviving the night and beating the game, as if the puppet demon threw that one last thing at you to screw you over. Or it was the developer's way to control the player, I don't know. But FNAF 4 Hatred Edition? Well, the moral of the story is to never pirate Scott's games, when the game never claimed to be a FNAF 4 free edition or pirated version. It is literally called Hatred Edition, implying that this is a fan-made version, or as I said earlier, a ROM hack of FNAF 4, or whatever it would be called for this situation. You see why this just doesn't really work in my opinion? If they wanted to do the whole ransomware thing, I get it, but they should have done it how FNAF Weird Mobile Port did it, and not say anything about pirating Scott's games, but instead just doing it to screw with the player and hack their device because it's evil like a creepypasta would. That's like if you downloaded a fan-made FNAF game, such as FNAF in Real Time, and then got a ransomware message at the end of it saying not to pirate Scott's game, when the game isn't even an official FNAF game, since it's literally a fan-made version of it. I know I'm kind of tweaking out about this, and honestly, I apologize, but like, it had so much potential to become an urban legend like Stingray, but was just ruined because of FNAF ransomware in my opinion. I'm sure most of you guys disagree with me on that, and honestly, that is okay, and I'm sure some of you guys do agree with everything I just said, but honestly, at the end of the day, I just want to see more videos like this. More videos that feel like how a creepypasta does, and more videos that have the potential to become the next Stingray, as the believability of said videos help make the horror feel more real, and this video did a great job at that. It's personally just, it had so much potential, and just, I don't know, the ransomware thing just took it away from me. But for some videos, the believability can make it feel more scary, like how it did for this video. But for some videos, that can be the opposite, just like how it is for FNAF World Ransomware. I don't even know where to start with this video, and honestly, I don't know how to present this one. Currently, while writing the script, this is the only video I've covered where I'm not sure if I should even try to explain it or just show you it, because the imagery, concept, and idea as a whole is just beyond unexplainable. So I think what I'll do is I'll try to explain what I think this video tries to replicate, and then show you the video while also trying to explain what is going on. because this video is insanely confusing and makes no sense and is just weird. So before I show you it, let me explain what I believe this video is trying to replicate. And simply put, this video looks to replicate a fever dream. Just like the last video, along with some videos we'll be taking a look at after this one, I believe this video would have worked better if it wasn't labeled as a ransomware, but instead again, as a fan-made rendition of FNAF World, or a hacked version like FNAF 4 Haitian Edition. This game does not fit the normal FNAF ransomware formula, mainly because it's based on FNAF World, so it has to be different in various unique ways that aren't seen in other videos. But this video steps it up by using very strange animations, designs, and movements to create a dreamlike feel, similar to, well, none of the videos we've looked at yet. So in order to understand what I mean, let's dive into the video finally. The video starts on the home screen of the uploader's computer, where we can see that they are recording using Bandicam and that they are running Windows 8, which immediately creates that sense of nostalgia, especially with the classic background image that almost every FNAF fan had on their phone back in 2014. So after shortly being on the screen, they start the game, where we are greeted to a warning screen, which says, "Warning, this game is fun," before being put into the main menu. Yeah, I don't even, I don't know what I'm looking at here. The text at the top, when translated, says
Five Nights at Freddy's World.
Where underneath it, we can see all the characters except Freddy completely disfigured, missing many facial features, while also being almost entirely blurred out. The music is also very strange, with it just being an assortment of extremely compressed sounds that make no sense, which can also be heard in the Choose Your Character screen after the player clicks Start. So with Freddy being the only playable character, the player clicks on him to start the game, where before being put into the game, we are put into the loading screen, which is extremely unsettling. While we wait in the loading screen, we are face to face with another extremely disfigured character that says Chica above it, which means this could be Chica, but it sure as hell doesn't look like her. Underneath the character, more Russian text can be seen, which translates to,
"This is the best game in the world."
And I mean, just look at it. I mean, of course it is. After the loading screen is finished, we are brought to again another extremely unsettling scene, which is supposed to be the intro cinematic for the game, where we can see Freddy, along with a grotesque version of Fredbear that squirms around on screen.
"Hello, welcome to Freddyland. Your mission is kill your enemies. Remember, always download from www.freefnacfree.com. Good luck,"
is what the intro cinematic says before giving us the prompt to start the game. So when starting, the player is brought to this screen for a couple of seconds before the game actually loads into gameplay. Now I'm not sure if this is a loading screen or what, but whatever it is, it's really weird and I don't know. We can still hear the background music in this screen, which makes me think this isn't actually a loading screen, but is instead an advertisement for the website, but who knows. So after this weird Freddy screen ends, we are finally brought to gameplay, where we see this. The map looks fairly normal, even though it's low quality, compared to what we have already seen. On the map, we can see what looks to be Bonnie, Dee Dee, Toy Chica, maybe, a strange black figure, and a lock, which as the video continues, we'll see what all of them actually are, but not before a random encounter with a mech crab happens. This encounter is fairly normal, except for the fact that the mech crab looks off and moves strangely, and that whenever the player damages it, we can see for a split second what looks to be Freddy appear on screen. As this fight continues, we also notice that when the player takes damage, a strange open mouth appears over them, just like how the Freddy appears on screen when the enemy takes damage. But after fighting for a bit, the player kills the enemy, and we see the poorly cropped victory screen before being returned to the map. So then the player makes their way over to Dee Dee, where we are greeted to a black and white screen, along with a black and white version of Dee Dee or Balloon Boy. I'm not too sure exactly who it's supposed to be. So then the player clicks the play button, where it takes us to this game's version of the fishing minigame, where we see a disfigured version of Freddy trying to catch something. So eventually, the player throws down a black block, which manages to hit the fish thing or whatever it is, causing the player to win, which is shown by the good message that appears on screen. After this, the player is shown the chicken loading screen again before being put into the map once more, where the player now travels to the yellow figure icon, which happens to be this game's version of Funtime's Foxy's shop. Looking around the shop, we see a disfigured version of Funtime Foxy, with their mouth protruding open while also staring directly at Freddy, and in between them, there is a poorly cropped version of Golden Freddy's head from FNAF 2. As the player stays in the shop, a cash register noise plays as Golden Freddy's head disappears, meaning that the player bought the head for some reason. But right after this, the player leaves the shop, where we see another loading screen, but this one has Bonnie on it. The screen shows a weird version of Bonnie with no eyes and a very long arm, which underneath, when translated, says,
"This is fun."
But after the loading screen ends again, the player is brought back to the map, where they travel over to Bonnie, where we see this. This version of Bonnie looks very similar to the version of Fredbear the player saw at the beginning, with him being extremely disfigured, having a realistic mouth, while also moving in the same fashion. We also notice that on the top right, we see the Golden Freddy from the shop, which is probably an upgrade of some sort, but we never outright get told what exactly it does. After the fight is over and the player wins, they make their way over towards the black figure on the map, which leads to another fight, this time with Chica. Again, just like with Bonnie, this version of Chica has very lifelike features, like with the mouth and eyes, and is too very disfigured. So again, after fighting Chica, the player wins, but this time when returned back to the map, it instead shows just one icon, with that being the devil. So once the player reaches the icon, it enters into another battle, except this time with Foxy. Foxy has these same characteristics as the rest of the previous ones, but this battle is different, because it is completely missing its background and seems to be harder, since the player actually dies in this battle. The game over screen consists of, well, text that says game over, and what appears to be a slumped over version of Freddy missing his eyes and also looking like the rest of the characters. Now you would think that since this is ransomware, the player probably would have gotten the ransomware screen when they died, but nope, it respawns them back into the map, where they try again to fight Foxy, which this time they are successful. So after the fight is over, the player is now transported to an 8-bit black void, where after some time, this happens. And with that, this is the video, but I do want to go over the final fight and the implications it has first. As the video is still in the 8-bit realm, we see a white version of what looks to be Fredbear appear, which is what transitions the player into the fight, where we see an utterly grotesque, monstrous version of either Golden Freddy or Fredbear, with him being partially blocked out by the text on screen. When translated, it says,
"You're not supposed to be here."
So as the fight continues, it finally ends, where afterwards we see a congratulations screen that says you win. But I don't believe that, because right after this you see the ransomware screen, where Freddy has now also become a disfigured looking creature, meaning he couldn't escape whatever made the other animatronics look like this. As I said at the beginning of this section, this seemingly only replicates one thing, with that being a fever dream, and I say it does that insanely well. The other cool thing I noticed while writing the script is the concept that the game has almost been infected by a plague that seemingly transformed all of these animatronics into these creatures, and it could be insinuated that Freddy is trying to escape the affected world to survive, but ends up being unsuccessful. I think that this little theory helps make this video just a little bit more creative. Again, I think the only issue this video has is the fact that it's classified as ransomware, but it's easily overlooked because of how creative and unique it is, so it honestly doesn't take away from the experience. Now, even though this is one of the most unique FNAF ransomware videos out there, let's take a look at one of my least favorite ones that exist, and that's because it's, well, really not too unique, but it's still unique enough to take a look at. And that's because it's based on FNAF Ultimate Custom Night, with the title being FNAF Ultimate Custom Night Ransomware Official Gameplay. Now, I've said this for a couple previous videos we looked at, but this time I'm just going to show you the full video first, because honestly, this video doesn't need an explanation unlike some of the previous ones, and it's only a minute long, so here it is. think you guys can see why I didn't feel the need to try to even explain this video, as it honestly isn't anything special. Now, personally, I don't want to sound rude or mean when I say this, but this was probably the worst one on the list. Not because it's inherently bad, but just because it's boring and doesn't make much sense in the context of ransomware. Like, FNAF Ultimate Custom Night is free, so why would you even pirate it when you could just go on Steam for free or play it on GameTone? That, along with the fact this video just isn't interesting, nor is the jump scare or ransomware screen, just makes it boring and kind of a waste of time. At least most of the other videos we looked at had something unique going on or tried different things, even if they failed at trying said things. But this video is literally just gameplay along with the ransomware screen. It's just unoriginal. But I will say that this video did come out around the time the trend started getting popular last year, so I guess that is probably a big reason why this video ended up like this, and just wasn't so good. And because of that, I almost put this in the honorable mentions segment. Now, we just looked at 10 different videos based around the FNAF ransomware trend, and explained all the unique themes, ideas, imagery, storytelling, concepts, and so much more that make these videos good and bad. But there's also a few that don't exactly fit into the FNAF ransomware trend, but are very much so aligned to it through its imagery, ideas, and basically everything else I just mentioned. So now we take a look at 5 honorable mentions that I feel should be taken a look at and appreciated, but just didn't fit into the 10 videos we already looked at. Some of these videos, as you'll see, take heavy inspiration from FNAF ransomware, or helped create new ideas for the trend, while others fall into their own little micro niche that can too be related to some ideas seen in the trend, like with this first honorable mention we'll be looking at, with that being FNAF or ransomware. This video, along with the next, are both the exact same idea, but are just way too short and not very related to FNAF ransomware compared to the videos we previously looked at. This video, though, is extremely creepy and contains the same imagery seen from FNAF World Ransomware, which gives it a surreal vibe, especially since the video is based on FNAF 4, which makes it feel like a nightmare, which is originally what inspired FNAF 4, and what it's based on. But since the video is only 30 seconds, I'm just going to show you it and not really introduce it, so here it is. This video is barely, if you could even call it that, a FNAF ransomware video, and is instead more of a recreation of a dream rather than a ransomware, which makes sense, as FNAF ransomware as a whole was partially inspired by, well, a dream, as mentioned at the beginning of this video with Five Nights at Freddy's CDs, since that video was basically just a recreation of, well, a dream. The strange noises, blurriness, and the jittery movement Nightmare Fredbear has really sells us on that feeling of a dream. The fact you can't point out exact details due to said blurriness really helps recreate that environment. And the fact that the player isn't running away and is stuck in the room helps with that atmosphere building as well, as I'm sure many people have had dreams where they've tried to run but just couldn't or ran in slow motion. So when the jump scare finally happens, we see a tiny bit more detailed version of Nightmare Fredbear's face, which looks terrifying. All of these same things, with the dreamlike environment, atmosphere, and character design, can too be said about the next video, as the next video was actually made by the same person, which is titled Nightmare _. Yeah, I didn't even need to introduce it because as you can see, this video is practically the same as the last, with just a few minor differences, which honestly help each video feel unique from one another. In this video, we are still in FNAF 4, but the environment is a little bit different, with it being just more pixelated rather than compressed, which gives it a less of a dreamlike feel. But as we see the player moving around the room, we notice that a face appears down the hall, the Freddy plush is missing his eyes, and that the music is seemingly normal compared to everything else that we're seeing. But that's when the player looks down the hallway again, where they see an absolutely nightmarish version of Nightmare grinning right at them. So as the player closes the door, we notice that flashes of Nightmare appear on screen, which leads to them getting jump scared. As I said, this video is the exact same as the last, hence why I put these videos after one another, and there's another video very similar to that I also wanted to include in the honorable mentions, with that being FNAF Wisdom, which has the exact same vibe these two videos have, but just on a way more like surreal scale. I'm going to start off by reading the description for this video, as it provides a bit of background information that I guess kind of helps make this video more understandable. This is a weird game I found. I don't really understand it honestly, but I found it interesting. I will say that this description honestly doesn't help make this video that much more understandable, but as I said, it kind of does. Not really. I don't know. Let me just show you.
Love introductions. Wanna play with me? Patience is key. Nobody likes patience.
No. I want you to stop feeling pain. When the one that you did the, What's your line, Fred? I'm chill.
Yeah, that's the video. I don't know what to think about. I don't know what to think about it apart from the fact that the imagery is creepy and really good and really scary, and that it's, I don't know, it's probably the best shitpost featured in this entire video. The designs are extremely well made, apart from the strange Mickey one. I mean, I guess that one's good, but I don't know. And I mean, the concept is unique, but I mean, apart from that, I don't even know how to explain this video, as, like, how could I? All I know is that it's unique, but I don't know what else to say about it, since honestly, I just couldn't put into words what I feel about it, or what I would want to even try to say. Just no words could really explain this video, you know what I mean? All I can say, though, is that it's very similar to the previous videos we just looked at, except that this one has a way more different concept. So let's take a look at a video that goes back to a concept we've previously looked at, with that being I recreated FNAF 2 Stingray. This video takes the FNAF 2 Stingray idea and actually makes it pretty scary, even if it is a little bit unrealistic. The video starts with the player's home screen, where they see the Stingray icon, along with the insanely nostalgic Minecraft wallpaper in the background. The player starts the game, where we see the FNAF 2 main menu, except that it's a little off, because the text is wrong and the music is more compressed than it is in the normal game. So then the player starts the game, where they see the newspaper screen before getting put into gameplay, where almost immediately after loading in, the puppet's music box can be heard while Withered Chica spawns in and starts doing this. I do have to say that this version is way more unsettling compared to the normal Stingray video, just because of the movements Chica has. Her shaking around on screen like that is very disturbing for some reason, and honestly looks extremely off, even though it is a bit unrealistic. The only thing this video does better than the original is having everything go to hell right as the game loads in, because if you remember, in the original, you have to finish the whole game before your phone gets corrupted, which doesn't make much sense, but in this version, everything happens immediately when you load in, which makes way more sense. But regardless, the video is a good recreation, but was just a little bit too short to be put in with the rest, so that's why it's an honorable mention, which I think is pretty fitting. But that brings us to the next video, which I genuinely don't know if I should have even put in this video, but I wanted to include anyways, since I think it kind of fits the overall aesthetics and just vibe of FNAF Ransomware, with that being FNAF 3 Secret Springlock ending screen. Now this video is not a FNAF Ransomware video, and has never claimed to be, but is instead an urban legend like Stingray, which was popularized by a video/image that came out which featured this disturbing footage. The video shows the FNAF 3 ending, which afterwards shows an insanely disturbing image which looks to be some humanoid figure staring at the screen. When this was first posted, many people claim to have seen the screen, and had this happen to them too. The urban legend went that this was a glitch that would only happen on the PS4 version of FNAF 3, and would randomly occur after finishing the game. Now, I'm sure you can see why I included this in the video, as it is fairly similar to the idea of FNAF ransomware, because the screen could have made for a terrifying ransomware screen. But sorry to burst your bubble, because this isn't real. There's no coding for this anywhere in the game, and the picture is just an image of a poorly cropped dog, and with lower resolution to make it look scary. This actually got so popular to the point that people thought this was going to be the next version of Stingray, and it kind of was, as many people still believe this urban legend to be true, just like Stingray. And with that brings me to the final part of this video, which I need your guys' help with. This video was supposed to feature both FNAF ransomware videos and games, but got way too long to include both. So if you guys want a part 2 of just deep dives into FNAF ransomware fan games, then like the video and let me know in the comments if you want to see that. So until that video is made, you can watch my deep dive into solving FNAF 2 Stingray, or a deep dive into the most obscure FNAF ransomware game ever made, at least until part 2 is done. And if it is done, it'll be on screen right now. This is Five Nights at Freddy's ransomware, one of FNAF's most popular and scary trends ever made. But what even is it even real, and how did we get here? Well, if you're brand new to the FNAF franchise, or if you are a veteran to it, FNAF ransomware is a completely different and unique rabbit hole that not many people know what it's actually about. Or at least that's what I would be saying if not for one specific thing. You see, 5 months ago I made a video going over around 15 different pieces of FNAF ransomware related content, all of it being video form. And ever since that original video was made, things have changed. Because unlike that video where I just go over FNAF ransomware videos, this time we will be going over FNAF ransomware games. So I would highly recommend watching that video first if you haven't seen it already, especially if you are unaware of what FNAF ransomware is, as that video isn't just a deep dive into the trend's various videos, but is instead also an in-depth explanation into everything related to FNAF ransomware itself. But if you already have seen it and just need a quick recap, then that's why in this video I'm going to be explaining and going over all the new information regarding this mysterious trend. Like if it is slowly dying off, if it's still even scary, and most importantly, if it still stands out from the rest of the various other FNAF trends from the past, along with so much more. But in order to go over all that, we'll first be looking at over 4 different FNAF ransomware games, such as games that quote-unquote hack your PC, alongside games that do other terrifying things, but I am getting ahead of myself. So with how much we have to go over in this video, I knew I wouldn't be able to do it alone. So that's why I asked for some help from the TikToker Mrs. Virus to help me research and narrate some parts in this video, which only seemed fitting since her specialty is all things viruses. But anyways, if you need something to put on in the background while you work, study, or even while you drift asleep, all while simultaneously learning about some of FNAF's scariest pieces of fan-made content, then this is the perfect video for you. But with all of that finally out of the way, now I have to ask the question, what are FNAF ransomware games?
Well, Five Nights at Freddy's ransomware games spawned from the Five Nights at Freddy's ransomware trend as a whole, obviously, where these games take various themes, ideas, and concepts from the trend and combine them to create an extremely immersive experience for the player, which replicate real viruses, malware, ransomware, and so on, to make the player believe that the game itself is a genuine virus. With FNAF ransomware being a subgenre of digital horror, it was no surprise that due to its premise and unusual idea, it inevitably got popular, with it only continuing to rise with the creation of fan-made videos which featured supposed fake, pirated, and hacked versions of FNAF games. So as more content began to spread about this trend online, it was only a matter of time until we'd see people make fan games based on these videos, or even see people create their own distinct iterations of the idea itself. This is the foundation for what these games stand upon, and within the past year, there have been dozens of these fan games with varying degrees of success, quality, and uniqueness that helped continue the evolution of not just this craze, but the evolution of Five Nights at Freddy's as a whole, especially when it comes to its fan games. However, the premise, themes, and idea of FNAF ransomware as a whole looks completely different than it once did, changing it to something almost completely separate from what it used to be. But not everything changed, as Fred 1's FNAF Ransomware is a fan game based on the very pieces of content regarding this trend, as it features a lot of the same things that were seen in those early videos, with notably the main inspiration for this game being Five Nights at Freddy's Sadie's, also known as FNAF 1 ransomware, which got extremely popular for the disturbing and surreal imagery seen, alongside the fact that this video was the first FNAF ransomware video ever made.
Upon starting the game, your PC detects that the application may be a virus and suggests to not play the game, which when combined with the already disturbing shortcut icon, we are immediately told from our instincts to just delete the game and move on. But if you click run anyway, this is what you'll be greeted to. This is the first thing you see when you load into the game. You get a quick warning message with incorrect spelling and bad grammar that says, "Warning, this game contains flashing lights and loud noises. Beware," before being put to the main menu. From the main menu text to the title to the Freddy on the screen. From just this main menu alone, we are given the impression that first of all, we shouldn't be playing this, and second of all, this game looks to be poorly put together. As you sit here contemplating on whether you should continue to play, Freddy looks at you with an unrelenting stare, almost giving off the impression that you have no choice but to continue to play, which when combined with the distorted menu music, gives off an extreme sense that it is already too late to go back. So as you continue to explore the menu, you may click the settings, which when clicked on, disappears and is replaced with strange characters that can't be made out, which doesn't happen for the other options, as when you click on them, well, they start the night. After you click either start new or play next, you will be loaded into night 1. Where upon loading in, you are spawned into the office, except that it is extremely pixelated and glitched out. And when you look to both of your sides, you realize that there are no door or light buttons, which leaves you completely defenseless from whatever horrors hide within the game. But at least you do have a camera, which isn't exactly the best, but it is better than nothing. When looking at the cameras, there are only 3 available to you, with those seemingly being the left and right hall, along with, well, what looks to be a middle hall, where we eventually see an animatronic that looks like a mix between Freddy and Golden Freddy appear. But within no time, this strange version of Freddy makes his way closer to your office, where within just seconds he appears right outside of your door, where you can do nothing but just stare at him waiting for the inevitable. Once the inevitable jump scare finally happens, we get a better look at this version of Freddy, where during the jump scare, he now has eyeballs and looks to be poorly cropped, as you are able to see a black outline around him which wasn't seen on him in the cameras. After this jump scare happens, we see something strange. We see a Bible quote which says, Proverbs 10:2, "Treasures of wickedness profit nothing but righteousness, delivereth from death." Unlike other pieces of FNAF ransomware content that feature Bible quotes, this one is actually real, and comes from the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament. This quote states that ill-gotten treasures have no lasting value, while a righteous life brings deliverance from death, which emphasizes that wealth gained through dishonest actions, or to, well, put it bluntly, wicked means is ultimately useless, but living a morally upright life provides true lasting security, which in the eyes of most can be seen as true wealth. This all leads back to something briefly mentioned in the first FNAF ransomware video I made, with that being the themes of religious horror presented in some of these pieces of content, which I'd rather not get into again as it is all explained in that video, but the fact this quote was used in this game wasn't just done for no reason, as the quote itself has significant meaning for the premise of FNAF ransomware, which when looked at in the eyes of someone pirating games for free, instead of paying for them, it can be seen as an ill-gotten treasure given through wickedness, while people who pay for it live a morally correct life, which ultimately provides righteousness and deliverance through death. Put in layman's terms, it basically means you aren't willing to quote-unquote sell your soul, and are willing to be a good, decent human being. Which again, when put in the terms of the overall foundation of how ransomware works, it means you should have bought the damn game and you wouldn't be put in this situation. Anyways though, after the screen ends, you will be brought back to the main menu, except some things are now different, such as Freddy now having blood on him while also looking even more disturbed, and that there is only one button now, with that being the play next one. Also, if you listen closely to the audio, it is now noticeably way more choppy, with it consistently glitching out, almost as if the application itself is lagging. But with nothing else to click on this screen, there is only one thing to do, with that being to play the next night. Once loaded into night 2, we see that nothing has changed. The office is still the same, the cameras are the same, and everything looks to be in order, except for one thing. Where is Freddy? Unlike night 1, Freddy is nowhere to be seen. But that seems to be the least of the problems, because if you listen closely, you can start to faintly hear what sounds like either crying or laughing or something in the background. But when you go to look for the source of the sounds and the cameras, that's when this happens. You can only see it for a split second, and during a normal playthrough, it would go by too fast to notice. But when slowing down the footage, that's when it becomes easily apparent on what it is, with it being some kind of Golden Freddy teddy bear with a demonic-like face, which after disappearing leads to a Golden Freddy jump scare which is equally as bad as the first jump scare. But right after this jump scare, we are shown yet again another Bible quote, Proverbs 26:11. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly, which goes hand in hand to what the player just did. This quote is a bit more simple, and is way easier to understand, as this proverb uses a disgusting and nauseating image to highlight how foolish people stubbornly repeat the same mistakes, even after negative consequences. So just like how a dog returns to its vomit, we have two returned for another night, knowing what consequences lie ahead. So with this in mind, we should now get the fuck. You had all this time to turn back, and now it's too late. The second you clicked sure was the second you gave up control, as from that point onward, you lost all access to move around or do anything, because this night was different. No cameras, no moving, no anything. Just you paralyzed as the ransomware begins to take over, where within just seconds your computer blue screens and then this screen appears. Oops. This copy of Five Nights at Freddy's is not authorized for use. By attempting to play this pirated copy of our game, you are violating copyright law and disrespecting the hard work of Mr. Coffin. Fred and his friends don't respond kindly to those who don't play by the rules. As a punishment for your crime, your files are to be deleted permanently. 2 hours remain. This is the end of the game, and honestly, it was one of the more enjoyable experiences I had when researching games for this video, as it was more of just that, an experience, rather than a full-blown game, and it acted very similarly to what was seen in the early pieces of FNAF ransomware content posted onto YouTube. As mentioned before I got into this game, this was without a doubt inspired from Five Nights at Freddy's C, which would explain the surreal imagery, terrible gameplay mechanics, and Bible quotes, as these are all things seen in that video which helped build onto the already disturbing concept behind it. Unfortunately though, this is the only game featured in this video that is similar in concept to that video, as the rest are more modern takes on the idea, except for one, with that being FNAF 3 Weird Mobile Port.
Craft, experiment, do it your way. Welcome to Affinity.
Now, if you watched the first video posted onto this channel, you would immediately recognize this name, as this name is very similar to one of the videos talked about in that one, with that specific video being titled Five Nights at Freddy's Weird Mobile Port, as this game takes heavy inspiration from that piece of content and adds upon it using FNAF 3 as the base for a continuation of the story seen in the original video. So for a quick recap regarding to the story for FNAF Weird Mobile Port, the player seemingly got dragged into hell and stumbled upon what they assumed to be a safe haven, which turns out isn't the case. So after surviving against hellish versions of FNAF animatronics, a ransomware screen appears and then the game ends, which now leads to this fan-made continuation of the story seen in FNAF 3 Weird Mobile Port. There are 2 videos online which help continue the story even more than the actual games themselves do. So that's what we're going to be looking at instead of the actual gameplay, plus also me and Gavin could not beat the game and got stuck on the first night. So that's also another reason. But the videos show the exact same gameplay that is featured in the actual game, so it doesn't really matter. When starting the game, you load into a very low-quality main menu screen, which features an image of Springtrap with a creepypasta-esque face pasted over alongside some text, where when translated from Russian to English it says, "Last layer of hell." This insinuates that this is the final game in the series of weird mobile ports, but is also contradicted by the title of the first game, which was called Endless Hell with Freddy, which means that we shouldn't exactly trust what is being seen throughout these games. Plus, I mean, they're literally ransomware, so why would you? Apart from those things, that's all there really is to the main menu. The music is still the same from the first one, and you are presented with 2 buttons, those of which being Initiate and No, with Initiate being the only button that works.
You manage to escape the beast, but you know it's searching for you, starving. You run into the abyss. You beg for forgiveness, as you believe all hope is lost. The thick fog starts to dissipate. You are able to see a building in the distance.
This is the prologue to this game, and when compared to the first game, this helps us give a brief explanation of what happened after the events seen within FNAF Weird Mobile Port. The beast it is referring to seems to be the puppet creature that was seen near the end of the night within the first game, which attacked and moved at ungodly speeds, but was unable to defeat the player. This intro cutscene describes how you are now put into the shoes of the protagonist right after those final moments in the original, where you are now running for your life, begging for forgiveness until you stumble upon a building in the darkness, which is called Fazbear Frights. This finally leads us into the gameplay, where we noticed a lot of strange things, like that the posters in most of the office is distorted, and with the box animatronic parts being completely blacked out, along with so much more which you can see for yourself. We also noticed that the hallway is empty until a flash of light appears, showing the FNAF 2 office for some reason, which when flashed makes the FNAF 2 flashlight noise, which makes the noise meter go up. But upon looking at the cameras, we see a lot of the same distortions that we seen in the office, but no sign of any animatronics, or any strange like that was seen in the original FNAF Weird Mobile Board video. That's when all of a sudden, an alarm goes off, similarly to what happens when a malfunction happens in FNAF 3, where the player goes to the other monitor to fix whatever is setting off the alarm. Which is hard to tell as all of the text is in Russian, which when translated from top to bottom says hallway lighting, sound system, which is what currently malfunctioning, and camera system. After fixing the malfunction, the player looks at the cameras again, where we now see what appears to be a hellish version of Springtrap staring right back at us. Upon seeing this, player switches to another camera to use an audio lure as a distraction, which works, and moves Springtrap further to what presumably would be the office, since the cameras don't say where it is. But almost immediately, after the player is able to lure Springtrap further into the building, they decide to close one of the vents, where right after, all hell breaks loose.
Now, this is actually how the gameplay plays out for the most part, as during the first night, this is what it will look like, and it plays very similar to how FNAF 3 does. Just lure Springtrap away from the office, fix any malfunctions, and avoid the phantom animatronics, because even though this video didn't show off everything, the game itself actually features all of the phantoms except for Balloon Boy. The only thing that isn't featured in this gameplay is the text pop-ups, as those are only seen in the video. But this funny pop-up can actually happen during normal gameplay, which is fitting for the game. But this isn't the end of FNAF 3 Weird Mobile Port, because even though I wasn't able to finish it, there are still 2 more acts within the game, which 2 have videos showing what is seen in gameplay. So let's finally look at the rest of the game.
After beating Night 1, you will be taken back to the main menu, which now looks a bit different, as everything is now red. There's no sound, and you're only given one choice, with that being to click Initiate and move forward, which when doing so, this happens.
The creature stops attacking. You think it might be a strategy to ambush you. But your body is giving up. Your eyes begin to close. And your nightmares awaken.
This isn't a different game. This is still FNAF 3 Weird Mobile Port, except that this version of FNAF 3 now has FNAF 4 implemented into it, which seemingly was done to fit the narrative, as before being put into the gameplay, it mentions how the protagonist begins to fall asleep, and how their nightmares begin to awake. This segment of the game honestly feels the most unsettling, as you are no longer bound within the confines of FNAF 3, and this proves to us that this game is doing whatever the hell it wants. Being put into the same environment as FNAF 4, especially with the heavy themes of surreal imagery, it comes together to combine that the theories of FNAF 4 being a dream, along with the strange liminal imagery to make something extremely uncanny. The way the game looks, along with the way it sounds, plays, and presents itself really dives deep to make you think, what the hell is going on? But we aren't alone in that sentiment, as shortly after the player encounters a hellish version of Nightmare Bonnie, text added in from the uploader appears on the screen, which shows us that they are also confused on what is happening. But then, if we weren't confused enough, a quick time event appears on the screen, where the player has to sync the heartbeats with the one in the middle, all while being watched by a humanoid version of Freddy. After this ends, we then see the player fend off against a hellish version of Nightmare Foxy, before again being faced with another quick time event until this happens. I don't think I need to explain what we just saw, but to sum it up shortly, the player was randomly teleported back to FNAF 1 Weird Mobile Port, where immediately upon being teleported, they get attacked from the demonic version of the puppet, along with the demonic version of the Freddy Quick Time event until somehow the clock hits 6 a.m. Now you might think that this is the end, finally, and again, you would be wrong. Because even though the player survived the night, if you were to load the game again, well, I'll have the uploader explain.
So that was very weird. I don't know why that happened, so I tried to play it again. But while playing, I noticed it was different again. As you can see, my control panel thingy is missing. So I had to grab it from the camera. The rest of the night is normal until 4 a.m. After seeing the timer, I am pretty sure I downloaded a virus. Foxy also appears this time. 4 a.m. was weird and I knew there was something horribly wrong with this game, but I wanted to keep playing. So 5 a.m. happened and I did not like it.
And just like that, that is the end of FNAF 3 Weird Mobile Port. There's not really much to say about this game, as a lot of it is self-explanatory, especially if you watch the original FNAF Weird Mobile Port video. Even though we looked at two different videos about this game, the actual game itself is nearly identical and plays out the exact same way as these videos did, except that the game itself has a lot more features within it that were not shown in these videos, such as more jump scares from the other animatronics, along with so much more that I couldn't get footage of due to me not being able to finish the game, especially near the end, as there is so much more to the actual game that makes it way more terrifying. Playing through the FNAF 4 section, and then playing the FNAF 3 section at the end has got to be terrifying, especially when seeing the countdown timer along with the puppet on your screen. Actively attempting to survive this night, especially as the countdown timer nears closer to 0, along with seeing the building catch on fire right in front of you while Springtrap tries to break into your office, is pure nightmare fuel. But eventually the screen goes black, and you are saved by a ransomware screen that appears, which is similar to the one from the original FNAF Weird Mobile Port video. Even though this isn't technically an official sequel to that original video, it still continues the story, and integrates the same imagery into this new concept extremely well. But this isn't the only FNAF ransomware fan game to do this, as 5 also takes a lot of different elements seen from this trend and combines them to create a similar experience, except with a lot more details and features, along with an unusually unique story which is added upon in a sequel, but we'll get to that soon. When starting up 5, a window opened showing the normal FNAF 1 warning screen, except that this version is glitched out and features a new warning at the bottom which mentions that this game has a lot of flashing lights, and that this game shouldn't be played if you are epileptic, before being brought to the main menu. Unlike the other games we have looked at, this main menu is, well, normal, at least at first glance. The text is normal, the title is normal, Freddy is normal. Hell, everything is normal, except when you look closer, because this version is missing the typical Scott Cawthon trademark on the bottom corner of the screen, and when looking even closer, this menu is also missing the correct version number for the game, as FNAF 1 is in version 1.132, and not just version 1. But even though some things are off, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Sure, when loading into the game, it's a little buggy, as the newspaper screen doesn't lead to a Night 1 12 AM text screen. And when finally getting into the office, there is no power or sound for the most part. But things don't get any better when opening the cameras, because when they are open, we see that not all of the cameras are available to us, as some of them are completely unavailable or glitched out. But that's until this happens. Huh, that was weird. It just crashed again. I was kind of expecting it to do some spooky ransomware pop-up screen like the rest of the games have, but I guess not. When reading the crash message, this is what it says. Unknown crash. Couldn't find chica.xml in the game files. 5.exe. Which doesn't make much sense because they were right there, but oh well, let's try again. Well, that was strange. It crashed again and gave a different message this time. But the main menu was different this time. Text was missing and Freddy was all glitched out. But I mean, it was probably like that because of the missing files. Like how this new error message states, unknown crash, missing files. Please specify file origin or context got caught in. Well, I don't know what files it wants me to specify, and I don't know how to get in contact with Scott. So maybe if I try to play it again, it will fix itself. Why did the menu change again? Why is Freddy red, and why does it only say 5? I don't know, but maybe it'll fix itself when I load in the gameplay. What the hell just happened? Okay, I gotta keep investigating this to see what is going on. The game didn't even pop up this time. Wait, do I want to play a game? What the hell is this? A jigsaw trap? What am I, in a Saw movie? What is even going on? Okay, this is the final time I will try to play this garbage game. This is 5. Finally, after all of those fake outs, this is the real deal. And before we can even load into the game, there's a couple things we need to talk about first. Again, for the rest of this video, there will be flashing lights along with various other things that may not be suitable for people who are epileptic. So please take this as your official warning. Also, make sure to subscribe if you love Five Nights at Freddy's or spooky gaming video essays just like this, as if you enjoy this video, you will enjoy the rest of my channel. Anyways, I just had to get that out of the way, but now let's get into the gameplay of 5. In the menu of 5, we see 2 buttons, with those both being Nightmare and Guide, where upon clicking on Nightmare, we are taken to a screen similar to the FNAF 2 arcade machine cutscenes, where we play as a white character sprite similar to the purple guy one in the actual FNAF franchise. As you move around, you will eventually stumble upon a house hidden within the woods, where in order to enter, you need to find a key. So eventually when you do find the key, you are able to enter, where upon doing so, you will be greeted with this. Midnight 8. The laborer is worthy of his wages. Luke 10:7, Timothy 5:18. Now, just like the Bible quotes I talked about earlier, I don't think I need to explain what this means, but I will do it anyway just in case if you weren't paying attention or just somehow don't understand what it means. Simply put, this means the worker is worthy of their pay, which when put in the context of Five Nights at Freddy's, means that the night guard deserves fair compensation for their efforts and time at work, which they aren't given, seen by the various paychecks given to the player after completing the game. This is the only religious symbolism in this game, and honestly it feels a bit unnecessary with all things considered. Until I looked a bit deeper into this game, as this quote actually plays into the overall story of the game itself and helps add on to the narrative. You see, this game's Game Jolt page actually features some extra information that I missed upon first glance, and almost completely forgot to add into this video. But upon looking deeper into this page, there is actually a small section titled Story, which says this. You're the FNAF 1 night guard, heading home after surviving 7 long nights. But things aren't okay. He's hallucinating, and it might lead to his death. He can't handle seizures very well. This sets up the foundation and also explains the gameplay of it, which we are about to see. This didn't need to be included into the game, as I think the game itself works pretty well without a story. But this extra piece of information helps us understand what we are seeing a little bit more, without taking away from the horror itself. But I only found out about this after the fact, so even without knowing this story, the experience still worked and was equally as terrifying. After this screen though, we are finally put into actual gameplay, where we are put directly in the middle of a dark hallway, and are given a door and camera to survive with. You can't move to the sides, but you can look behind you, where you will see a window which is illuminated with a flashlight to look around with, along with a battery that drains extremely fast, meaning you shouldn't look behind you unless absolutely necessary. But then looking back at the hallway, we see the cameras, where upon opening it, we only see a map, along with a brown dot, which shows us where Freddy is, and if he is close to us. This is strange, because with such limited mobility and visibility, where are the rest of the animatronics? Well, let's take a look back at the main menu again, and let's look at the guide, as this gives us all the information we need in order to survive against the animatronics. Now, this game has pretty simple mechanics, and honestly is pretty fun when you get the hang of it. But if you started the game without looking at the guide, then you would be screwed, as this game has very unique mechanics that are unlike any other FNAF fan game I've seen or played. But that could just be because I barely play any FNAF fan games. Freddy is probably the easiest. Whenever he appears in front of you, you close the door and listen for his footsteps. Bonnie is a bit more difficult, but whenever he appears, turn around and stare at the window until you hear him leave. Foxy is again a little bit difficult. Whenever he appears, open your camera as fast as you can until he leaves. But Chica is, in my opinion, the easiest to remember, but the hardest to deal with, as during gameplay, you need to listen for her humming sound, and when you hear it, you need to turn around as fast as possible and click on her. Now, these alone aren't hard to deal with, but at first, you will probably misremember what to do for each character, and will probably die, especially if you consume all of your flashlight battery, as if it reaches empty, you will not be able to click on Chica. These mechanics ultimately lead to a pretty enjoyable gameplay loop, with the only con of it being that if you master these mechanics, the game will get pretty boring pretty quick. But on your first couple of attempts, you may end up like this. Yeah, you don't want to die in this game, because this game will open up things on your computer that you probably don't want it to, such as Google and Notepad. When you die, your computer will begin tweaking out, where as that happens, the Notepad app will open with a note called Sinner, where the text within it says, "The laborer is worthy of his wages," over and over again. Then, while that happens, Google will open a GIF that shows what looks to be a door. I genuinely have no clue what this is or what this is supposed to be. So if anyone in the comments knows what this is supposed to symbolize, then please let me know because I have no clue. Anyways, once you eventually get used to the gameplay mechanics, the night will go smoothly, up until about 5 AM, where a new enemy will appear, with that being Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy doesn't seem to do anything except distract the player, but if you can survive literally 30 seconds of this, then you will survive the night and it will hit 6 AM.
Good job, Gavin. It wasn't that hard, you may think. For you, it wasn't. People spend so much of their lives crafting and polishing perfect experiences for everyone to enjoy. And then people like you won't appreciate it and give value to it. You stole my hours of work. You did not pay for the work I just did. This may come as something narcissistic to say, but you're such a scumbag. You have 10 seconds to write an apology. Do it.
With my sister.
And with that, that is 5. Regardless of if you write an apology or not, this ending will mostly stay the same. The game will glitch out and will quote-unquote attempt to access your files, microphone, and webcam. After this, you will be provided a custom night mode, where you can attempt to achieve the rest of the stars ever featured in the main menu. But you have to have super speed in order to beat the max mode, because you need to have insane reflexes in order to survive, so good luck getting that finished. This game blends both FNAF Ransomware along with an original story to blend the lore of FNAF 1 into this game, all while acting as a piece of malware in your computer, which helps heighten the experience for the game. But we still aren't done yet, and we can't stop talking about this game just yet, because this story isn't over, as this game has a sequel titled Knights, where we loosely continue the story from this game and continue to dive deeper into the laborer who is worthy of his wages.
This game may be a sequel to the first, but a lot of things are different this time around. So, since we have a basic understanding of what to expect, let's go over the story first before we delve into the game itself.
It's 2014. This year, the first Five Nights at Freddy's was released. You quickly fell in love with the game and played it until you practically done everything there was to do. You thought that was the end, but shortly after, a sequel was announced. Excited, you started searching for information online and talking with others about it. But then, a small feeling began to grow inside of you. Anxiety. You simply couldn't wait for the game to release. You couldn't stand months and months of silence. Desperate, you got on your PC and started looking for leaks or beta versions. After hours of searching, you stumbled upon a strange website claiming to have the FNAF 2 beta builds. Without thinking twice, you downloaded it. Now, it's time to face the consequences of your actions.
Now, this synopsis is completely different from the one the first game had, as this now puts you into the shoes of someone who downloaded a virus unknowingly, and honestly, it helps build onto the immersion way more than the first one did. Imagine this real quick. You're in elementary school and FNAF 2 just released, but you don't have any money or computer to buy the game, so instead you play the demo, except that after some time, the demo just isn't cutting it anymore, and you now search for a free version, which upon discovering one, you realized far too late that it's a virus. This is an experience many people have had, especially as gullible kids. So why not base the game off of something similar? I mean, even though it may not be the most realistic, it still immerses you enough to the point where you can imagine yourself being in that situation, which is all that matters. So with this in mind, let's finally take a look at the game itself. When starting the game, we first get a message saying,
This game is better with the lights off and with silence.
before being given a continue button to press. This isn't at all what the warning in FNAF 2 looks like, which should already be throwing people off, as the warning in 5 was for the most part the same exact as FNAF 1's. But that's when we load in, and we realize that this is quite literally the same menu as FNAF 2 demo, so maybe what we downloaded is actually legit? Yeah, no, I'm not gonna waste your time. This shit is just as messed up as the first one, so let me make this quick. The gameplay is very similar to 5, where we can interact with the office along with the cameras, except that some things are missing, like most of the camera buttons, but that's until eventually during the night, this happens.
Summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Well, compared to the last game, that wasn't that bad. All we had to do was just flash a spooky, distorted version of Withered Chica, which inevitably led to a glitchy jump scare. So now all we need to do is just keep loading the game until we get to the actual good stuff. You did this? Bruh, I ain't do nothing. What do you mean, look around? Whatever. Let's just start it again.
Oh, so you tried getting FNAF 2 earlier, right? Well, first of all, no, your fat ass is not getting FNAF 2. Second, you fell right into my trap of sorts. You see, I know people just like you. I created this program to play with impatient people. People who can't wait for just some months, like you. And maybe, just maybe, infect their PC. Maybe. But anyways, you're here for a reason. Are you streaming your screen to someone else?
No?
Okay. You wanted to play a game, right?
No?
Then fuck off. But before we play, let me ask some questions first. Is your name
Yes. What the fuck?
Makes sense. It's not like you wouldn't recognize your own name. Next question. Can I hear your voice?
Yes.
Let's hear it then.
Who the hell are you? What the hell do you want with me?
Sounds like shit, LMAO. Next question. Can I see? Can I see your face?
Yes. How is this happening?
Dumbass, you don't have a webcam or it's literally not accessible. Maybe you're recording. I don't know. Next question. Do you recognize this place?
No. How the hell do you know that?
Really?
That is the intro of tonight's, and let's just say it knows how to make an impression, as it will tell you where you live, tell you your name, and also connect to your microphone and webcam just to play it back to you. The intro can play differently depending on your answers, but for the most part, it still leaves a lasting impact regardless of what you choose. After this intro though, you will be taken to the main menu, which looks similar to the 5 menu, except with a few rearrangements. This time we see an Act 1, 2, and 3 button, along with 2 stars instead of 3. But there is also one more thing that is hidden in plain sight, with that being a hidden guide menu. Because unlike the first game, this one hides it from you. But we'll get to that in a moment here, because first, let's take a look at Act 1.
Am I dreaming?
Is the first thing we see before being able to move around. This is almost the exact same sequence as the one from 5, where you need to find a key in order to enter the building, which will lead to the night itself.
Hi. Are you still there? Look, you probably already know the situation you're currently in. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to spend any more time talking to you. You stink so much that I can feel it through my screen. Like, really. So, yeah. Maybe I'll call you once in a while just to say some random shit. You're currently in Act 1, and generally, the first night is never usually that bad in any game. As some would say. Yeah, and yeah. I can't really lie, I didn't really feel like making a hard act when I first made Act 1, so for now, get some popcorn, sit and relax while your PC is probably being used to my bitcoins, lol.
Well, this is definitely a change, that's for sure. I don't think I need to explain what is different, as I am sure it is quite self-explanatory. But there are some things that do need to be mentioned, such as the gameplay mechanics. This game is way more in-depth, as the overall gameplay itself has been completely revamped. Now, instead of a singular hallway, we now have a left and right hall we need to check using a flashlight, a vent over our head, and a music box we need to find located behind us. We also have functional cameras now, which accurately shows most of the animatronics and their location to us. Act 1 is pretty easy, as all you need to do to survive is to go against the toy animatronics, which I think we should go over now. Each character in this game has unique functions and mechanics, making it extremely difficult to survive against during early playthroughs, and this is why Act 1 functions almost as a tutorial. Toy Freddy is one of the most aggressive animatronics, and when looking at him through the cameras, he must not be stared at for long, as it agitates him and makes him progress towards the office faster, where you must use the mask on him to make him leave. Toy Bonnie and Chica are the same. Whenever they approach you either your left or right hall, you will be given a visual cue, where you must enter it and flash them until they leave. Mangle, on the other hand, just covers the camera, making it harder to see. Then obviously the puppet works the same way from FNAF 2, just wind the box and make sure it stays wound up. If you can survive against all of this, Act 1 will be complete, and you will be brought back to the main menu, where if you click on the guide again, you will see that there are more animatronics you need to learn. This is where things get more difficult, as you will need to remember more specific details to survive against these new animatronics. Withered Freddy will appear in your office, where his eyes will either glow or not, and depending on if they are not, you will either have to use your mask against him or stare at him until he leaves. Withered Bonnie acts the same as Bonnie from 5. Whenever he appears, you just need to leave the room till he leaves. Withered Chica will appear in the left hall, where you need to use the mask on her until she leaves. Then there's Withered Foxy, which is easy to survive against, but is extremely annoying to deal with. He will tell you where he is located, and you will have to go find him and follow him until he leaves. So if he appears behind you, you will hear him say his location, where you must go in order to not get jump scared. He can stay at a location or move to different ones for an extended period of time, which makes him the most tedious to deal with, especially during stressful situations. But with all of this in mind, you should be able to survive against them all just fine.
What's happening to me?
Is the first thing we see before being able to move around yet again. Except something is different now. We are now inside of a house. I think it's easy to see what these scenes are portraying, but let's not spoil the surprise just yet. Once you're done exploring, you can leave the house to begin Act 2.
You finished the first act. Good job, I guess. So, like I said before, the first night is never usually that bad. But since this is the second night, expect things to take a drastic turn. You actually how each animatronic works on the menu. Try clicking the logo of the game and you'll find it. Genuinely, I wouldn't really put a guide on things, but you'll need it. Since I've noticed a lot of people who played before you got so mad on the last act that they actually broke their computer before I could scrape even the info on it. So I just decided to put a guide on how each animatronic works so you don't have to go through the same page. Good luck.
Act 2 is a little bit more difficult, but if you are able to manage your resources correctly, you will do just fine. But since the night plays out is the same as Act 1, we'll just move on to Act 3. Looking at the guide again provides us with even more information regarding 3 more animatronics, with those being Endo, Golden Freddy, and Balloon Boy. These are some of the easier ones to deal with, as these animatronics are more annoying rather than dangerous. Endo will attack you from the ceiling vent, where whenever you hear him approach, you must shine your flashlight at him until he leaves. Golden Freddy will make an audio cue, where he must be found on the cameras and clicked on in order to prevent his attack. Balloon Boy is interesting, as the action figure of him on the desk will make noise, preventing you from using your flashlights. So whenever he activates, you must click him to re-enable your flashlights. So with all of this in mind, let's not waste any more time and let's move on to Act 3.
Why do I exist?
Is again the first thing we see before being able to move. But something is different this time. The text is spread out, the screen is wavy, and we are back in the forest again. So when exploring the forest for an exit, that's when we stumble upon someone hanging.
Who are you?
I think the last act. Oh fucking hell. Look, dumbass. If you haven't noticed by now, there are some new animatronics here. Also, the other animatronics are like exponentially harder. Like really. Stop fingering your fucking nose and actually pay attention to the game. Let me just check my notes here. Oh! Okay. Yeah. There is definitely something really wrong with this act. Wait, is this thing still turned on? Oh, it is. Look, I'm just gonna tell you now that there is still a lot left to uncover.
Well, this is almost it. All we need to do is finish this night and the game is over.
You really think you beat the game? You didn't even get close. Reopen the game.
Okay, that is strange. Let's reopen the game then. Oh, okay, well, I might have lied to you guys, because there is a secret Act 4 for the game. And honestly, I don't think words will do it justice, so I'll just show it to you.
You're right. Look at the office. You're right. Look behind you. Look at the office. Look at the office.
Why are you still here? Why are you being so stubborn? Are you so bored that you decided to just continue playing a malware that is breaking your computer? Like, I know you don't have much to do in your PC since you literally can't do anything with it. But like, I don't know. Go outside for a bit and maybe consider living. Because if you're so addicted to your computer to the point where you literally can't get off it, even with a malware, then you should just, I don't know, do something else. It's not like I'm worried about me. I'm more so that I'm kind of impressed by how much of a dumbass you're being right now. Anyway, you have finished the, thing. So, every story needs an end, right? So let me set up something real quick here. I hope you played the last game before, because you'll need to remember it.
Is this my home? It doesn't feel like it. Is this really where I've lived? It's strange. I feel strange.
I'm my brother's sister. I'm his sister.
My hands,
so he's like asleep
they're
right now.
burning. My feet are burning. I can't move my eyes. I can't breathe, and yet I still live.
Oh no, guys,
I
he's
see
waking
lights.
up.
They are dancing like angels in the sky.
Let's go behind this one.
Should I look away? My eyes are burnt.
How long is it? Let me check. Oh, it's not done, guys. I'm gonna end it after it's done.
Rufus, can I show my face?
No.
Okay.
Because guys, if you find this channel, I'm Lucas B. And if you find this channel, guys, this is my secret one videos channel, and I have another channel called Platinum Trophy.
And with that, that is Knights. This game, or should I say, these games, are truly unique. From the story they tell, the characters they feature, and the mechanics seen throughout, they are definitely something no other FNAF ransomware game has been able to pull off. After finishing Knights, you are given a custom Knight option, where you are able to complete custom challenges for various rewards, which can be seen on your desk. Apart from this though, this is all the game features after completion.
Now, these games may not be the best, or the most interesting, but they all feature unique character designs, concepts, mechanics, and so much more that set them apart from other FNAF fan games. And even though me and Mrs. Virus weren't able to look at every single tiny detail and thing that were featured in these games, we were able to look at all the important things that make these games stand out from the rest. There is a lot of other FNAF ransomware games I would have loved to go over, but due to people beating me to them, and due to the quantity of FNAF ransomware games out there, that would have been nearly an impossible task for me to do alone, as this video would have been like, I don't know, over 10 hours if I decided to do that. But I think these 4 games give a good look into the trend as a whole, and give us a good glimpse of the various different iterations people have made of it, which helped cultivate the idea to make it become what it was once known for, which at the root of it is the horror behind it. But you see, time has passed, and over the past year, this trend has slowly begun to die and wither away, being replaced with new trends which ultimately continues the cycle. But unlike other trends, this one is different. This one created a lasting impact on the community, and the reason why is because, well, it was different. It was unique, and it turned something already terrifying into something even more terrifying. As I mentioned in the first part of this video, and in the last one, FNAF ransomware isn't about improving the idea of FNAF. It's about turning it into something completely different, which is by turning it into nostalgic horror. There are certainly other names for this subgenre, and there is definitely other subgenres that can be attributed to this one. But the overall idea behind nostalgic horror is that the horror presented blends fear with elements of childhood memories, retro aesthetics, and other familiar media and things of the past. The reason it exists and is effective is because of its ability to transform and twist these innocent and comforting feelings given to us from these nostalgic things into something uncanny and eerie. Taking what we know as familiar and then distorting it into the unfamiliar is what makes it so effective, such as the idea of FNAF as a whole, turning a fun childhood memory of, I don't know, let's say going to Chuck E. Cheese, and then flipping it on its head to turn those comforting memories of Chuck E. Cheese into the complete opposite, which is why the franchise itself blew up. And the same thing can be said with FNAF ransomware as well. The ability to use your own thoughts and potential fears you once had as a child of things that now seem irrational makes it a compelling and almost universal type of horror that almost everyone can relate to. As kids, whether if we had our own PCs or borrowed our parents, we knew that if we broke it, we would be in huge trouble, and that there would be consequences if anything were to happen to it. So due to things like that, this trend subconsciously gave us this feeling that we all felt as kids, just by delving into the nooks and crannies of, well, our own subconscious, using our own memories to remind us of what we feared most as children. The overall ability to use your own thoughts and fears you once had as a child of things that now seem irrational makes it a compelling and almost universal type of horror that almost everyone can relate to, and Mrs. Virus agrees.
FNAF ransomware is honestly one of the most exhilarating and creepiest things I've looked into. It's literally real ransomware themed around Five Nights at Freddy's, which of course already makes it unsettling. But here's the thing. Not every FNAF ransomware out there is actually legit. A lot of them are hoaxes or fan-made recreations. But honestly, even the fan-made ones are still really well done and portray that same analog horror aspect. Legit FNAF ransomware tricks you by pretending to be something harmless until it's already too late. Even the fake or fan versions of FNAF ransomware still lean into that concept as well, making it terrifying, yet leaving you desperate to know what happens next. It's taking something familiar and twisting it into something way darker. And honestly, that mix of terror and excitement is exactly why I love talking about it.
But now that fear of this concept has begun to fade, which has led to the trend as a whole fading with it, as what made it popular was everything we mentioned, but also the elusiveness to it. Now there are dozens of videos and games online showing off these quote-unquote viruses, but at first, us viewers didn't know if they were fake or not, but as time passed, we just sorta knew what to expect with them, which made it boring. Some games and videos, like Five Nights at Freddy's CD and FNAF 1 Weird Mobile Port, were great examples of revolutionizing the trend and keeping it on its toes. But even those games got old, regardless of the impact they had on the trend and community as a whole. As of November of 2025, this is where FNAF ransomware stands, a soon-to-be-forgotten trend within the FNAF community, and only time will tell if this will change. But for now, this seemingly is the end of FNAF ransomware. But there is one more thing I want to mention. On screen right now is another deep dive into one of FNAF's most creepy, obscure ransomware games ever made, which came out before all of these ones did, called Five Nights at Freddy.
Guys, I think we can fit one more video in. Hey, that's a bit too long, that's a bit too long. guys. Bye.